July 4th, 2018, was meant to be a perfect Independence Day for the Patterson family from Rochester, New York. 12-year-old Timothy James Patterson had been looking forward to this trip to Niagara Falls for weeks, eagerly anticipating his first time seeing one of America's most famous natural wonders up close. For Timothy, who had recently discovered a passion for geology and natural sciences through his 7th grade earth science class, visiting Niagara Falls represented the adventure of a lifetime, a chance to witness the raw power of nature that he had only read about in textbooks and seen in documentaries. Timothy was the middle child of 3 in a close-knit family that valued education, outdoor activities, and spending quality time together. His father, Robert Patterson, worked as a high school history teacher in Rochester, while his mother, Susan Patterson, was a registered nurse at Strong Memorial Hospital. Both parents had instilled in their children a love of learning and exploration, regularly taking them on educational trips throughout upstate New York and encouraging their curiosity about the natural world. Timothy's older sister Sarah, 14, shared his interest in science and often helped him with his school projects, while his younger brother Kevin, 9, looked up to Timothy as his role model and adventure companion. The Patterson family had chosen to visit Niagara Falls during the 4th of July holiday, specifically because Timothy had been studying the geological formation of waterfalls in his science class and had written a research report about the erosion processes that created Niagara Falls over thousands of years. His teacher, Mrs. Elizabeth Harper, had been so impressed with Timothy's enthusiasm and the quality of his research that she had encouraged him to consider pursuing geology or environmental science as future academic interests. Timothy had been carrying a composition notebook during the weeks leading up to the trip, filling it with questions he wanted to explore and observations he planned to make during their visit. The boy's personality was characterized by an unusual combination of scientific curiosity and adventurous spirit that sometimes worried his parents but also made him an engaging and enthusiastic companion. Timothy was known among his friends and teachers as someone who asked thoughtful questions, paid attention to details that others missed, and possessed a natural tendency to explore and investigate his surroundings. His bedroom at home was filled with rock collections, nature photographs, and science books that reflected his growing passion for understanding how the natural world worked. On the morning of July 4th, the Patterson family had driven the hour and 20 minutes from Rochester to Niagara Falls State Park, arriving around 10 o'clock in the morning to beat the holiday crowds in summer heat. The park was already busy with tourists from around the world, but the Pattersons had planned their visit carefully, bringing a detailed map of the park grounds and a schedule of activities that would allow them to see all the major attractions, while leaving time for Timothy to conduct his informal geological observations. Their first stop had been the American Falls observation area, where Timothy immediately became absorbed in studying the water flow patterns and rock formations visible behind the falling water. He spent nearly 30 minutes taking notes in his composition notebook and asking his father detailed questions about the geological processes that had shaped the landscape. Robert Patterson, drawing on his background as a history teacher, was able to provide historical context about the development of the tourist area, but acknowledged that Timothy's scientific questions were beyond his expertise. The family then visited the Cave of the Winds attraction, where they donned rain gear and walked along wooden walkways that brought them within feet of the thundering Bridal Veil Falls. Timothy was absolutely mesmerized by the experience, describing it later to other park visitors as like being inside a thunderstorm and a rainbow at the same time. His excitement was infectious, and several other families began following the Pattersons around, enjoying Timothy's enthusiastic commentary about what they were seeing. After lunch at a park concession stand, the Patterson family made their way to the Maid of the Mist boat dock, where Timothy had been especially excited to experience the waterfall from water level. The boat tour had been the highlight of his anticipated itinerary, and he had researched the engineering of the boats and the safety protocols used to navigate the turbulent waters at the base of the falls. As they waited in line for the 2 o'clock boat departure, Timothy continued taking notes and asking questions about the operation of the tourist boats and the hydraulic forces created by the massive volume of water falling from the American and Canadian falls. The Maid of the Mist tour proceeded normally for the first 20 minutes, with Timothy positioned near the front of the boat alongside his family, eagerly watching as they approached the base of the falls. The boat captain, Maria Rodriguez, a veteran of 15 years conducting tours in the dangerous waters below Niagara Falls, later described Timothy as one of the most engaged young passengers she had ever encountered. noting that he was asking sophisticated questions about water pressure and erosion patterns that demonstrated genuine scientific understanding. If you enjoy real mysteries like this one, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any cases. The incident that would change everything occurred at approximately 2:25 in the afternoon, as the boat was maneuvering into position for passengers to get optimal views and photographs of the American Falls. Timothy had been leaning against the boat's safety railing, holding his notebook and trying to estimate the volume of water flowing over the falls per second, when a sudden surge of turbulent water caused the boat to rock more violently than usual. In the chaos that followed, with passengers grabbing onto railings and each other to maintain their balance, Timothy somehow went overboard into the churning waters below the falls. The immediate response was swift and professional, with Captain Rodriguez immediately implementing emergency protocols while other passengers and crew members attempted to locate Timothy in the turbulent water. The boat's first mate, David Chen, threw life preservers into the water, while Rodriguez radioed for emergency assistance from the Coast Guard and Niagara Falls emergency services. However, the conditions at the base of the falls, with massive volumes of water creating powerful currents, whirlpools, and underwater turbulence, made immediate rescue efforts extremely challenging. Within minutes, multiple rescue boats were in the water, including Coast Guard vessels, Park Service boats, and emergency response teams from both the American and Canadian sides of the falls. Helicopter crews joined the search effort, scanning the water and shoreline areas downstream from the falls for any sign of Timothy. The search operation quickly expanded to include the entire Niagara River system from the base of the falls down to Lake Ontario, a distance of approximately 7 miles that includes some of the most dangerous and turbulent water conditions in North America. Susan Patterson later described those first hours of the search as the longest and most terrifying of her life. She and Robert stood with Sarah and Kevin at the observation deck near the base of the falls, watching dozens of rescue personnel risk their own safety to search for their son. The family was surrounded by other tourists who had witnessed the incident, many of whom stayed to offer support and assistance despite the disruption to their own holiday plans. The search continued intensively for 72 hours, with teams working around the clock despite the challenging conditions and the approaching darkness each evening. The operation involved personnel from multiple agencies, including the United States Coast Guard, Niagara Falls State Park Police, New York State Park Police, Canadian Coast Guard, and specialized water rescue teams with experience in the unique conditions created by the massive waterfalls. Detective Jennifer Walsh of the Niagara Falls Police Department was assigned as the lead investigator for what had officially become a missing person case. Walsh, who had 20 years of experience in law enforcement, including several water-related incidents at Niagara Falls, immediately recognized the extreme challenges posed by the search environment. The area below Niagara Falls is known for powerful undercurrents, underwater rock formations, and hydraulic forces that can trap objects and individuals underwater for extended periods. After 3 days of intensive searching with no trace of Timothy found, the active rescue operation was officially scaled back, though the investigation remained open and search efforts continued at a reduced level. The decision to scale back the operation was devastating for the Patterson family, but rescue officials explained that the dangerous conditions and the amount of time that had passed made it extremely unlikely that Timothy could have survived in the water. The initial investigation focused on determining exactly how Timothy had gone overboard from what was supposed to be a safe tourist attraction with multiple safety measures in place. The Maid of the Mist boats are designed with high railings, life jacket requirements for all passengers, and experienced crews trained to handle the challenging water conditions. An investigation by the National Transportation Safety Board examined the boat's safety equipment, the crew's response procedures, and the specific conditions that had existed during the incident. The NTSB investigation concluded that the incident had been a tragic accident caused by an unusual combination of factors, including higher than normal water flow over the falls due to recent heavy rainfall, an unexpected hydraulic surge that caused the boat to rock more severely than typical, and Timothy's position near the railing at the moment of the surge. The investigation found no evidence of equipment failure, crew negligence, or safety protocol violations that might have contributed to the tragedy. For the Patterson family, the lack of closure was almost unbearable. Without recovering Timothy's body, they struggled with the uncertainty of not knowing exactly what had happened to their son or where he might be. The family worked closely with Detective Walsh and other investigators to explore every possible theory about Timothy's fate, including the possibility that he might have survived the initial fall and been carried downstream to a location where he could have reached safety. The search efforts were expanded to include the entire Niagara River system and portions of Lake Ontario, where currents might have carried Timothy if he had survived the initial incident. Volunteer search teams organized by the family and local community groups conducted ground searches along the riverbanks and shoreline areas, hoping to find any evidence that might provide answers about what had happened. These volunteer efforts continued for weeks after the official rescue operation had been scaled back. The case attracted significant media attention throughout New York State and beyond, partly because of the tragic circumstances and partly because it raised questions about tourist safety at one of America's most popular natural attractions. The story resonated with families across the country who could identify with the Patterson family's loss and who were concerned about the safety of similar tourist activities at natural sites with inherent dangers. The emotional impact on the Patterson family was profound and long-lasting. Susan Patterson took extended leave from her nursing job to focus on the search efforts and to cope with the trauma of losing Timothy. Robert struggled to continue teaching while dealing with the uncertainty and grief, often finding himself unable to concentrate on his classroom responsibilities. Sarah and Kevin both required counseling to help them process the loss of their brother and the traumatic experience of witnessing the incident. The family established the Timothy Patterson Foundation for Water Safety Education, working with schools and youth organizations to provide education about water safety and the specific dangers associated with natural water features like waterfalls, rivers, and lakes. The Foundation's programs emphasize the importance of respecting natural forces and understanding that even well-managed tourist attractions can involve significant risks that require constant vigilance and safety awareness. As months turned into years without any trace of Timothy being discovered, the case gradually transitioned from an active search to a cold case. Though Detective Walsh continued to follow up on periodic tips and maintained contact with the Patterson family, the detective had become personally invested in the case and was determined to provide the family with answers if any evidence ever emerged that could explain Timothy's fate. The investigation remained challenging because the environment where Timothy had disappeared was constantly changing due to the massive volume of water flowing over Niagara Falls. The hydraulic forces at the base of the falls constantly moved sediment, rocks, and debris, making it possible for evidence to be buried, moved, or destroyed by the natural processes that operate continuously in the area. This dynamic environment meant that even if Timothy's body or belongings had initially been deposited in a particular location, they might have been moved multiple times over the years since his disappearance. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic significantly impacted ongoing search efforts and memorial activities organized by the Patterson family. Travel restrictions and safety protocols limited the family's ability to visit Niagara Falls for their annual remembrance gatherings, while reduced tourism and park operations meant fewer people were present who might potentially discover evidence related to Timothy's disappearance. However, the pandemic also led to some unexpected developments in the case. With reduced tourist activity at Niagara Falls, water levels and flow patterns were affected by changes in upstream water management for hydroelectric power generation. These altered conditions exposed areas of the riverbed and shoreline that had been underwater for years, creating opportunities for discoveries that might not have been possible under normal conditions. Throughout the years following Timothy's disappearance, several potential sightings and discoveries were reported to authorities, but none provided definitive evidence about what had happened to the boy. Pieces of clothing, personal items, and other debris were periodically found along the Niagara River and Lake Ontario shoreline, but forensic analysis consistently showed that these items were not related to Timothy or his disappearance. The case was particularly challenging for investigators because the Niagara Falls area has unfortunately been the site of numerous accidents and incidents over the years, creating a complex background of evidence and debris that can complicate efforts to identify items related to specific cases. The massive volume of water flowing over the falls, approximately 6 million cubic feet per minute during peak flow periods, means that objects entering the water system can be transported great distances and can remain underwater for extended periods before being discovered. Detective Walsh retired from the Niagara Falls Police Department in 2022, but not before ensuring that Timothy's case file was thoroughly documented and transferred to her successor, Detective Michael Torres. Torres, who had worked closely with Walsh on several water-related cases, committed to maintaining active oversight of Timothy's case and continuing to follow up on any leads that might emerge. The breakthrough that would finally provide answers came in June 2024, nearly 6 years after Timothy's disappearance, when commercial fishing boat Captain William Bill Morrison was conducting routine operations in the lower Niagara River near its confluence with Lake Ontario. Morrison, who had been fishing these waters for over 25 years and was familiar with the underwater terrain and typical debris patterns in the area, noticed something unusual caught in his nets during a morning fishing run. Morrison initially thought he had snagged a piece of industrial debris or construction material, but when he hauled in his nets, he discovered what appeared to be a backpack that had been underwater for an extended period. The backpack was severely damaged by years of exposure to water and sediment, but it was intact enough that Morrison could see it had once been a bright blue color and contained what looked like school supplies and personal items. Following protocols that local fishermen had been trained to follow regarding potential evidence in missing person cases, Morrison immediately contacted the Coast Guard rather than attempting to examine the backpack's contents himself. The Coast Guard dispatched a vessel to Morrison's location and secured the backpack as potential evidence, then transported it to shore where it could be properly examined by law enforcement and forensic specialists. Detective Torres was notified within hours of the discovery and immediately recognized the potential significance of the find. The location where Morrison had found the backpack was approximately 3 miles downstream from the base of Niagara Falls, in an area where currents and underwater formations could trap debris for extended periods before releasing it. The condition of the backpack suggested it had been underwater for several years, making it a potential match for evidence related to Timothy's disappearance. Forensic analysis of the backpack confirmed that it had belonged to Timothy Patterson. Items found inside included his composition notebook, though most of the pages were too damaged by water exposure to be readable, a pencil case with his name written on it, and a small digital camera that his parents had given him for the trip to Niagara Falls. Despite years underwater, some of the camera's internal components had been protected by its waterproof casing, allowing forensic specialists to recover several photographs that Timothy had taken during his family's visit to the park. The recovered photographs provided a poignant glimpse into Timothy's final hours, showing his excitement and enthusiasm as he explored Niagara Falls with his family. The images included shots of the American Falls, the Cave of the Winds walkways, and the view from the Maid of the Mist boat before the incident occurred. The final photograph on the camera showed Timothy's notebook page, where he had been trying to calculate the volume of water flowing over the falls, the same scientific curiosity that had led him to lean against the boat's railing to get a better view. More significantly, the backpack's discovery location provided crucial information about what had happened to Timothy after he went overboard. The underwater terrain where Morrison found the backpack included a series of rock formations and sediment deposits that could have trapped Timothy's body for an extended period before the backpack was separated and carried downstream by changing current patterns. Based on this new evidence, Detective Torres organized a specialized underwater search operation focused on the area where the backpack had been discovered. The search team included experienced divers with specialized training in underwater recovery operations in challenging environments like the Niagara River system. The operation required careful coordination with Canadian authorities since the search area extended into waters under Canadian jurisdiction. The underwater search operation was conducted over several weeks in summer 2024, using advanced sonar equipment and underwater cameras to explore areas that had never been systematically searched during the initial rescue efforts in 2018. The search revealed a complex underwater landscape of rock formations, debris deposits, and sediment layers that had been shaped by years of powerful currents and changing water levels. On July 18, 2024, exactly 6 years and 2 weeks after Timothy's disappearance, the search team made the discovery that would finally provide closure for the Patterson family. Divers found Timothy's remains in an underwater cavity formed by large rocks and sediment deposits approximately 50 yards from where his backpack had been discovered. The location was a natural trap, where currents had deposited Timothy's body, and where it had remained protected from the stronger currents that might have carried it further downstream. The medical examiner's analysis confirmed that Timothy had died from drowning, consistent with the circumstances of his disappearance. The examination also indicated that his death had been quick, providing some comfort to his family that he had not suffered extensively. The location where his body was found explained why initial search efforts had been unsuccessful. The underwater cavity was not visible from the surface and was in an area that appeared to be open water, but actually contained hidden rock formations. The discovery of Timothy's remains brought a mixture of profound sadness and relief to the Patterson family. After 6 years of uncertainty and unanswered questions, they finally had confirmation of what had happened to their son and could begin the process of laying him to rest. The family held a memorial service at their church in Rochester, followed by a burial ceremony that was attended by hundreds of people whose lives had been touched by Timothy's story and the family's advocacy for water safety education. Captain Morrison, who had discovered Timothy's backpack, was recognized by the Patterson family and local authorities for his role in finally providing answers in the case. Morrison, who had children of his own, later spoke about the emotional impact of being involved in bringing closure to a family that had endured years of uncertainty. His discovery demonstrated the importance of maintaining awareness about missing person cases, even years after initial search efforts have concluded. The resolution of Timothy's case led to improvements in search and rescue protocols for water-related incidents at Niagara Falls and other similar tourist attractions. The 6-year delay in locating his remains highlighted the challenges posed by complex underwater environments and the need for long-term search strategies that account for changing conditions and the movement of evidence over time. Detective Torres emphasized that Timothy's case demonstrated the importance of never closing missing person investigations completely, even when initial search efforts are unsuccessful. The detective noted that advances in technology, changes in environmental conditions, and the dedication of individuals like Captain Morrison can create opportunities for discoveries years after initial incidents occur. The Timothy Patterson Foundation for Water Safety Education expanded its programs following the resolution of Timothy's case, using his story to educate families and young people about the hidden dangers that can exist, even in well-managed tourist environments. The Foundation's work has reached thousands of students and families, helping to prevent similar tragedies through increased awareness and safety education. The Maid of the Mist operation implemented additional safety measures following Timothy's case, including enhanced safety briefings for passengers, additional crew training for emergency response procedures, and improved communication systems for coordinating with rescue services. These improvements have enhanced safety for the hundreds of thousands of tourists who visit Niagara Falls each year. Susan and Robert Patterson have spoken publicly about their experience, emphasizing both the importance of water safety awareness and the value of never giving up hope in missing person cases. They credit the persistence of law enforcement officials like Detective Walsh and Detective Torres, as well as individuals like Captain Morrison, with finally providing their family with answers and the ability to find peace after years of uncertainty. The story of Timothy Patterson serves as both a tragic reminder of the power of natural forces and a testament to the importance of persistence in seeking answers for families affected by missing person cases. His case demonstrates that even in the most challenging circumstances, with the right combination of dedication, technology, and sometimes luck, it is possible to provide closure and understanding even years after initial tragedies occur. Timothy's legacy continues through the foundation established in his name and through the improved safety measures that have been implemented as a result of his case. While his life was cut tragically short, his story has contributed to efforts that may protect other young explorers who share his curiosity about the natural world and his enthusiasm for learning about the forces that shape our planet. The Niagara Falls area, which has been the site of both tremendous natural beauty and numerous tragedies over the years, now serves as a place of remembrance for Timothy and other individuals who have lost their lives to the powerful forces of nature. His story is preserved as part of the ongoing effort to balance public access to natural wonders with the safety measures necessary to protect visitors from the inherent dangers that exist in these magnificent but potentially dangerous environments.